All right, you may have heard the story. We've been having this on the news pretty much most of the afternoon. If you have not heard, first of all, there was a federal government travel advisory for those planning on going to Cuba. Not a warning, just an advisory. The idea being that there were problems apparently with power and it was going out on a pretty regular basis. Fuel was harder to get. And then today, fairly quickly, it would seem to me, Air Canada has announced that they will no longer be flying to Cuba. So all their Air Canada vacations packages, right, done for the time being. But they are going to send, apparently, a plane to pick up people already in Cuba, about 3,000 from what I understand, and bring them home. John Gradek is a faculty lecturer of operations and integration aviation management at McGill. John, thank you for coming on. And just two things here. Number one, it's Air Canada and only Air Canada. All the other Canadian airlines, so WestJet and Sunwing, Transat, they're still doing this. What's going on here as far as you get it?
I think Air Canada is being ultra cautious in this exercise. I think that they've got about 3,000 passengers that they have down in Cuba at this point in time. And it's going to take them about 12 flights to, in fact, send empty airplanes down to Cuba to pick up all these passengers and bring them home. But Air Transat has said that they have, no intention of suspending any flights. That if passengers want to have changes to their travel plans made, that Air Transat's vacation arm will in fact take care of it. WestJet said that, or Sunwing has said, we carry enough fuel on the airplane to go down to Cuba that we can come back to Canada without having to refuel in Cuba. So there are a number of different aspects that this seems to be like Air Canada being an outlier and taking some preemptive action to suspend their flights.
But I'm trying to understand it to the last point of an airline. I don't know if you said it was WestJet, whichever airline. If you fly from here to Cuba, and the idea is that you have enough fuel to be able to just simply turn around and go back without having to refuel, is that because of the particular airliner that you're flying, or would Air Canada not be in the same position?
Air Canada will probably be in the same position. It all depends on how many passengers, how much cargo, how much baggage you have on the airplane. The heavier the airplane, the closer you are to the maximum takeoff weight.
Right.
You may be sacrificing fuel to do the round trip. But in most cases, there are airplanes that have 7 to 8 hours worth of fuel on board the airplane, and that's more than enough to make Montreal or Toronto, Cuba work round trip. So Air Canada is being very cautious and trying to minimize any potential disruption.
So now I'm trying to understand, the number we're using is 3,000 people. That's what Air Canada says are actually in Cuba right now on packages they book with the airline. If they're going to send a plane down in the next day or so, I'm assuming some of those people might be staying for the week, for another week. What kind of a nightmare is that going to be to work out compensation when you come home?
Compensation? What compensation?
No, but you know what I mean. I mean, seriously, this is terrible.
They're bringing them home. So they're telling it's either you come with us now, or basically you're on your own sitting in Cuba, because we're not going to be able. We've only got X number of flights, 10 or 12 flights. We're going to be operating.
Yeah, but we booked our vacation at a hotel for the next 2 weeks. What happens to that?
Well, sorry,
Wow.
We're bringing you home. Would you rather stay and finish your vacation
and
be on your own, or would you rather come home?
Okay. What happens? I don't know if you would know this. What happens in a case of insurance? If you book travel insurance, would this be one of the things it would cover?
Yeah, it would. It depends on the insurance policy that you have. You have insurance policies that are, what I call all perils. If you decide to cancel, or whatever, you don't feel like going anymore, they'll cover it. But insurance policy gets pretty expensive. So on a run-of-the-mill travel insurance policy, no, you get no coverage. But if you have the all frills, all exceptions covered, you might get some compensation from that policy.
Okay, so if I try to just extrapolate this, right? Air Canada said they're going to send a plane or planes down. What did you say? How many flights are they talking about?
I'd say between 10 and 12 planes.
Okay, but they're not all happening on the same day.
No, only the next 2 or 3 days. Yeah.
Okay, so if you are, let's say you booked a vacation, you're in Cuba, and you're there for another week beyond this week. At some point, those 10 or 12 flights are going to be come and gone, I guess.
They're all gone.
And you're stuck there at the end
if
you choose not to get on one of those flights.
Correct. You're on your own.
What if you chose to get on an Air Transat flight or a WestJet flight? We're flying there every day.
They'll charge you. They'll give you they'll sell you a ticket on their flight, and you have to pay for it.
Can you then go to Air Canada and say, wait a sec, my deal was to come home in a week from now. You're not providing that option anymore. You should be paying for this.
Bonne chance.
I hate that answer.
Unfortunately, that's the way it works. The Air Canada is saying, we flew you to Cuba. Unfortunately, we have situations beyond our control that are causing us to repatriate, that are offering to repatriate. Your vacation is now, a disaster, a fiasco, and here's your chance to come home. Take it or leave it.
I don't know. This sounds kind of, again, the idea about them being overly cautious here. I mean, I kind of get it, but you think all the airlines, John, would be on the same page with respect to this, wouldn't you?
I would think so. I think that, Canadians love Cuba, right? We all love Cuba. We send about 150,000, tourists to Cuba every year. So we are the biggest source of tourism income in Cuba. And so I find it kind of, I wouldn't say unethical, but I find it kind of disconcerting that Air Canada would just wash its hands of Canadians wanting to go to Cuba just to help Cubans out. And I think, Sunwing, WestJet, Air Transat, they're going to hang in there and, hang this thing and go for as long as they possibly can in order to make sure that there are ways of getting food and clothing and all kinds of stuff to the Cubans, which is what Canadians normally do. To me, this is Air Canada being a little short-sighted. Do
you anticipate the other airlines will eventually end up doing what Air Canada is doing now?
No, I don't. I think Air Transat and WestJet kind of understand, their moral obligations to bring Canadians to Cuba, and I think that these airplanes are built with lots of fuel on it, and there's intermediate places to stop for fuel. It's not as if you send an airplane in Cuba and then your airplane is stuck in Cuba.
Right.
I can fly to Nassau, I can fly to Panama, Santo Domingo, pick up some gas and come home.
Which just kind of begs the question again, why is Air Canada doing this? But you said they're just being ultra cautious, although I don't see the reason. But anyway, I guess we'll have to leave it at that. Unless you have a reason you think why they're... I mean, ultra cautious is one thing, but this does seem like they're moving a little too quickly, does it not?
Well, you remember Air Canada had the strike, right, last summer?
Yeah.
And we know how Air Canada handled that one. So that was a disaster in the other direction. So I think they're saying we're not going to go through that again. We're going to, do something proactively and not have that happen.
We'll leave it at that. Good luck booking a vacation to Cuba, by the way, if you're planning on going. John Gradek, John, thank you so much. Always appreciate it.
All right, Aaron, take care.
Good care, you bet. Coming up to news at 3:30. Then when we come back, story.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.